Last team in the AFC South, it's the Tennessee Titans. They were the number one overall team, or team with the number one overall pick. So they have Cam Ward coming in as a starting quarterback. Over-under is just 5.5 for the Tennessee Titans. A team that's still, I would say, somewhat in transition, right?
Yeah.
Where they should have been in transition 2 years ago, and they were half in, half out. They were drafting, and they were trying to draft and develop, but they were also going and signing DeAndre Hopkins and trading for L'Jarius Sneed. And I think they're still rebuilding in Tennessee and rebuilding this time with a first-round overall quarterback in Cam Ward. So what are your thoughts on the Titans, and what are we looking for this season for Tennessee?
So I think that they are far enough away that, they have too many flaws still to be amazing this year. But I do think that this team could surprise a lot of people and be pretty good quite quickly. Like, again, it all hinges on if Cam Ward hits the ground running. But in the last couple of years, we have had a team that have drafted a quarterback that were not supposed to be good, and that quarterback has immediately made the difference and taken that team to somewhere they probably didn't belong. Houston with C.J. Stroud, and then Washington with Jaden Daniels. If Cam Ward can be that guy, as effectively what most people thought was the only quarterback really in this draft. He was by far and away QB1, and then there was a gap to either Shedeur Sanders or Jackson Dart. But, the NFL, analysts, fans, most people had Cam Ward as not just QB1, but by far and away QB1. If he is that guy, this offensive line could be fine, average. I don't think it can be special necessarily or even particularly good, but I think it can be fine. Calvin Ridley is a good receiver. There's definitely a gap after Calvin Ridley. I would love to see another, real difference maker in this group. Maybe Ayo Manor, the rookie who dusted Travis Hunter in college. Maybe he can be the guy, but they definitely need a secondary target. Maybe Tyler Lockett can bounce back and show that he isn't actually washed. Somebody else needs to show up. But between Calvin Ridley, the backfield is phenomenal. Tajay Spears and Tony Pollard are both, I think, really good running backs. Chig Okonkwo is a good tight end. I think this group could do some damage. And then on defense, there's a lot of talent there. I mean, Jeffrey Simmons, Tavondre Sweat, Arden Key is a good pass rusher, if not an amazing one. L'Jarius Sneed is a much better corner than he showed his first year with Tennessee. Amani Hooker. There's a lot of good players in this group.
Yeah, I think Tennessee, it's kind of like what we've said about the New England Patriots, where I think the range of outcomes could be wide. And, and the other, every year we do this and we go position groups, and on paper the Titans don't look great, which was very much like Washington last year.
Yeah.
They did not look great on paper. This is very much like Houston 2 years ago. They did not look great on paper, but 2 years ago, a rookie C.J. Stroud was phenomenal, and some of those players look better with phenomenal C.J. Stroud. Of course, they work together, but they made their playoff run. Last year, Washington, Jaden Daniels was outstanding. They make their playoff run. If Cam Ward just hits the ground running and is special, then the outlook is it's well over 5.5.
Yeah.
Right? If he is special, because before you know it, you're right. We talk about the offensive line in a second and how they got to being one of the worst in the league for a while now to at least looking like they can be serviceable. But if Cam Ward is special, you're like, of course, him and Calvin Ridley have a great connection, and Tyler Lockett looks rejuvenated as a veteran buy low, and one of the rookies, either Ayomena or Chimere Dike, becomes a vertical threat for them, whatever it might be. And again, the defense, they just had a strange season last year because special teams was historically bad for the Titans. The defense, they were like second or third worst in points per game, but second best in yards allowed per game. This defense was sneaky good last year, but they were just in a lot of awful situations and in a lot of blowouts. The offense was handing the ball to the defense too much with Will Levis early in the year, so there was just a lot going on. But you're right, the defense has some potential. So I still think ultimately it's a rebuilding year, and if you're Mike Bergonzi as the first-year GM, you're like, man, we're still adding pieces to this team. We're in a rebuild mode. So if they sneak into the playoffs somehow, like the Giants a few years ago, Don't be fooled. There's still a lot of talent that you need to add, but I think they're moving in the right direction. And if Cam Ward is special, it offsets a lot of their weaknesses.
Yeah, I mean, I don't expect them to be the finished article this year, but if they were a lot better than people were expecting them to and a genuine playoff contending team, I wouldn't be shocked. Like, I could see this team maybe not winning the division, but like scaring the teams that are winning the division.
I do like what they did on the O-line. They spent a lot of money for Dan Moore. He's just over $20 million. But now you start to see these other tackles making $24, $25 million a year. You kind of understand. I think Moore's 20.5 APY is going to actually settle back into that average left tackle number. So that actually may have been pretty good anticipation of the market by the Titans there for Dan Moore at left tackle, who's a mid-tier guy. But that moves J.C. Latham to the right side, where he should be better and was reasonable as a rookie. Kevin Zeitler comes in. He's still good at this point in his career at guard. Skoronski's moving in the right direction. They do have what could be 5 dependable starters up front, 5 reasonable starters. And that's a nice way for Cam Ward to at least start with from a pass protection standpoint. We see so many rookie quarterbacks have below average offensive lines, and we sit here a year later and say, it's tough to get a good gauge for what Drake May could do or what whoever could do. At least they're going to get an idea, I think, what Cam Ward can do behind a reasonable offensive line the way they've built it. Hey guys, real quick, only 40% of our viewers are actually subscribed, so let's change that. Hit that subscribe button, and now let's get back to the action.
Good news for Dan Moore Jr. is that he doesn't have to face Myles Garrett twice a year anymore. The bad news is that he does have to face him on December the 7th.
Oh, he's got him once?
Yeah.
They have the Browns.
I was just looking up the caliber of pass rusher that Dan Moore is going to be facing this year. It's not too bad. I mean, they play Minnesota. Oh, no, that's preseason. They face the Rams early week 3. That's Jared Verse. Obviously, you've got Houston twice with the pass rushers they can bring to the table, so that's not easy. Who else have we got in here?
That's been the story with Dan Moore. Against the elite edge rushers, he struggles.
You've got San Francisco, but Nick Bosa typically plays the other side, so you're probably okay there. And then you've got Jacksonville twice with Josh Hines-Allen largely as the threat there. So, I mean, that's certainly a lot better than having to face, even just the duo of Myles Garrett and Trey Hendrickson twice a year within the same division. It's definitely easier, albeit Myles Garrett's coming to town on December the 7th.
Just want to touch on Cam Ward before we talk a little more defense. But Cam Ward, high turnover-worthy play rate at Miami, high big-time throw rate. I think he has that level of special, but he has that level of boneheaded plays a couple times a year or a couple times a game. The boneheaded plays for him, I think, was trying to do too much. It's part of what makes him special.
That's the thing.
I want to see what that balance is.
I wouldn't characterize his as boneheaded plays.
Will Levis boneheaded plays, Cam Ward trying to do too much, superhuman type plays.
He definitely, he flirts with that line between trying to do too much and being like doing something special. The same way Josh Allen does, the same way Patrick Mahomes does. Mahomes throughout his career has always been generally on the right side of that line. Josh Allen has been on either side of it. I think Cam Ward is going to be on either side of it earlier in his career, but I think that's a different thing than Levis, who made boneheaded plays. But I think because he was sort of head and shoulders QB1 in this draft, I do think that was a very under-talked about part of Cam Ward's game. Like, nobody really talked about how often he does try to do too much and do something ill-advised / crazy. I mean, there are plays there where if you just took them out and, blurred out the quarterback or whatever, you could easily convince somebody that was Will Levis based off what he was doing. It's like that was a very silly thing to try and do. And he did it, and sometimes it came, and sometimes it paid off, sometimes it didn't. But I think people really basically just brushed over that part of his game because he had all the upside.
I spun it as a positive because every time he made one of those bad decisions, Florida game, Cal game, Virginia Tech game, he came back with big plays and had that amnesia, still had that aggressiveness that you need to bounce back from mistakes. So, I can't wait to see what happens with Cam Ward this year. He's elevated multiple programs from Incarnate Word to Washington State to Miami. Can he do that now with the Titans team? Defensively, as we said earlier, sneaky good. I still think they'll have a below-average pass rush, at least on paper. I'm with you. I like Arden Key. I just don't know if there's enough help up front. They'll need some creativity. It sounds like they're unleashing Jeffrey Simmons a little bit more at camp, and he does have that ability to dominate. So I think it's an okay group. They used a second rounder on Olu Oladejo from UCLA, who's a linebacker conversion, has 1 year playing off the edge, still learning the position. I think from a pass rush perspective, it's a year to kind of get him, try to see what he can do from a development standpoint. And then again, the secondary, I don't know what ends up happening with L'Jarius Sneed, who was so good in Kansas City, not great early on with Tennessee, and then injured. Do they stick with him? Do they want to get out from under that deal at some point? because if he's out there and good, it does, I think, have a force multiplier effect on that secondary, and maybe they're sneaky good defensively if they get good play out of Snead if they stick with him.
Yeah. Again, I think there's the talent on that defense should be better than it was last year. I think that group could be pretty good as well.
So I think they'll be competitive, but there's a reason why over-under's 5.5 here for the Titans.
Yeah, I mean, it feels very low, but on the other hand, you can kind of see the logic if you say, well, Minnesota's over-under was 7.5 in a much better situation for the quarterback, right? Similar idea in that we don't really know what we're going to get from the quarterback, the most important position, but you feel better about Minnesota's situation in basically every area. Better receivers, better offensive line, probably better coach, better defense. That probably adds up to 2 wins. So, I mean, it seems fair, but you do look at that very low number and it really wouldn't take much.
I think if you're a Titans fan, I would want to see what you have with the rookies. Beyond Cam Ward, you've got the 2 receivers that I mentioned earlier, Oladejo, Kevin Winston Jr. Liked him as a safety prospect coming out of Penn State. He was injured all of last year. I think he was a guy that would have been a fringe first rounder that they got much later. See what you have from the youth movement in the rebuild. And like I said earlier, 2 straight years of teams that were picking second.
Yeah.
Texans and then Commanders picking second. And they were picking second because when you looked at the depth chart, you were like, yeah, this looks like a team that's a top 5 overall picking team. And before you know it, the quarterback was out of his mind good and they were making playoff runs. See what happens with Cam Ward.
It's really, I mean, that line is basically a referendum on Cam Ward. If Cam Ward is better than the average, starting rookie quarterback, they're better than that win total. If he isn't, then that's where you get that win total from.
All right, man. Are you going to go over or under this win total of 5.5 for the Tennessee Titans, all per our friends at FanDuel?
I'm going to go over because I think he will probably be better than that average level starting rookie quarterback, at which point they win more games than that.
I'm going to go under for the Titans. I still think they're in rebuild mode, a tick behind where they want to be in a bunch of position groups, and I don't know. I think Cam Ward will be good. I'm not sure he'll be carry the team special right off the bat here.
Thanks for watching all the way to the end of our video.
Check the Mic is live every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, so be sure to hit this subscribe button so you don't miss a thing.
The all-knowing algorithm is convinced that you'll like these videos as well, and frankly, who are we to argue?